Hey everybody, well here's the video I've been promising. These are my current settings. Now I've spent a lot of time here just making sure that they're as consistent as possible. So this video has a lot of samples of flights, different airplanes, different locations. Right now we're flying in the Mooney Bravo. I think it's the Bravo, right? It's one of the Coronado planes there. And we're out on the west coast. We're in California near Hollywood and Burbank and so forth. You can see I'm getting about 37, 38 frames per second on average through most of this area, which to me at this level is more than sufficient. I mean, quite frankly, we may fly, I mean, most people, I'm assuming, would fly like this once in a while and go around the cities, but for the most part, we're not going to be flying around massive cities looking at the buildings. However, if you do that, you can see that with my settings and at least my configuration as it is right now, that you can get what I consider fairly decent frame rates, about 37, 38 frames per second in very, very populated areas with some fairly decent resolution and detail turned on. Now I'm not sure which city this is actually. We're still in the Hollywood area, but you can see as I'm approaching the center of it, we're still staying around 36, 37. They will drop as we get right in between the buildings, probably go down to 33, maybe as low as 30, but probably not. But still, to me, relatively smooth. I can read it. Citibank, Universal Bank, or something that goes kind of fast, but to me it was relatively smooth, looked okay. So these are my settings. I hope they help you. I have different software you may or may not have. I use SideQuest. I use SideQuest to change the recording resolution, the recording frame rate, and also to change the resolution in the headset. So I'm going to show you that, but I do use SideQuest for that. SteamVR has a couple of different resolution options. The main one I have is at default. The per application, as we see, is I think around 116. So, well, you can see we're still in the same area. We're getting about 37, 38 frames per second in this plane. And at the end of the video, I have some other planes flying around Boston. And you'll see the same thing in multiple planes trying to fly roughly the same area. So these are my settings as they are right now. So on the main Manage 3D settings, the only option that I have turned on here is the scaling. I have scaling turned on and I have it set to 30%. Ignore that, Mayday. That wasn't me. That was my flight radar. Yeah, so that's the only setting that I have on the main page. Now, under the application itself, up at the top, obviously I have image scaling, use global setting turned on. Otherwise, it wouldn't make any sense to have it on in the main option. Other than that, the settings that I have changed are down here. Prefer maximum performance, anisotropic sample off, high performance for texture filtering quality, texture filtering trilinear off, threaded optimization off, and pre-rendered frames 2. Now my hardware specs are in my video description. So you can see here I have the defaults more or less set up for virtual desktop streamer. For the Steam video settings, I have the auto resolution and I have the advanced super sampling off. Per application for it, it's okay, so it's 114% right now, and the rest are defaults. The field of view and the override, those are defaults. And like I said, the virtual desktop streamer is mostly default. I have a lot of things turned off. Now these are my in-game VR settings. That 65 is about 1300 by 1350, I believe, on my render scaling. And you can pause this and you can get a look at this to get these if it goes too fast, but you can see what my settings are here for my objects level of detail and different individual settings. For traffic, I have some traffic on, some vehicle, some ground aircraft vehicle. I'm not a big fan of the workers because they walk through airplanes and everything just in the way, so I don't have them on, but I like other vehicles. Okay, so these are my SideQuest settings. Now, most of these you don't ever have to worry about. The refresh rate, I have that on 90 here because that's the same as doing it in the Oculus app, changing it to 90. Chromatic aberration, I leave alone. Guardian, I leave alone. Now, full rate capture, I turn on because I record with it, and then I also change the video capture size to 1080. I do not change the FFR, the fixed foveated rendering. I do not change that. The CPU, GPU level, non-relevant. I don't change that. The default texture size, this is one that you might want to play with. The default, obviously, for your Oculus Quest 2. I usually have this around 20. I think this setting is 2000 something there. But try it out. You may see a difference. Game mode, I have that turned on, and then I have HAGs and refresh rate also on. But on that render rate in SideQuest, it does definitely make a difference in the resolution in your headset. You will see a difference if you go from a middle to a low to the highest number there. And you can see if it's worthwhile for you. So this is another application I use, Intelligent Standby List Cleaner. This keeps your RAM free. It keeps it really running nice and smoothly. There's a video tutorial on this. I'll put the link in the description, but I recommend this tool. I also made this registry change, which I will also highly recommend, which is changing the NDU start value from 2 to 4. And what that does is it means it doesn't start. NDU is a network utility that just monitors your network traffic, and we all know we have enough network traffic with this game to keep anything busy. So it makes no sense to have the network monitoring it, anything monitoring it. So now we're in Boston right now. We just took off from Logan, and we're passing the Bunker Hill is right below us, the Bunker Hill Monument, and over to your left there is the USS Constitution, Old Ironside, and then this is a bridge, the Zakum Bridge that we're passing over. So you can see I'm flying over Boston in a fairly decent plane, and I'm getting 38 to 40 frames per second with my settings. Now I'm going to let you know, I don't tune my settings for the big jets, the heavies. I don't fly them. So if you fly those, you may have to tweak some of the settings that I have. And again, that bouncy, that jumpingness that you're seeing and the little bit of graininess that you catch once in a while, that is not in my headset when I'm flying. That is because of the frame rate counter, which comes from OpenXR Toolkit and from recording with the Quest. So if I was not doing the frame rate or the recording, you would not see, well, you wouldn't see anything because I wasn't recording it, but there wouldn't be any graininess or any jumping or bouncing. So you can see we're still flying here in the Boston area in the same plane still, and we're getting 39, 40 frames per second as we're coming into the Boston proper area. Whether I'm looking out the window or I'm in my cockpit, I'm getting very good frame rates here with these settings. When I go into the mountains, I can easily crank up the ground detail in the trees if I want to, and still get, yeah, we got a Old Ironside, I think we're just missing it. There it is, right on the tip of the wing there, just went by it. I know there's the Bunker Hill Monument. What did I say? Oh, yeah, in the mountains, the frame rates are even better. On average, I get 45 for my frame rates in the mountains. So now we got OpenXR Toolkit, which you can see I have set to FSR, anamorphic off, 77%, which is 2010 by 2086, sharpness 20%, bitmap conservative. The appearance, really personal preference, how you like your colors and your brightness and your shadows. I love doing it with the sunglasses. I think that improves the scenery a lot personally. I make no changes here. That shake and reduction makes no difference here for this setup. although it's definitely needed if you use the cable. And then here, I override the resolution. We're at 2611 by 2709. I down the green just a little bit in the color gain. This is the only other change I make here. And then here, I just have the expert settings turned on. And the menu timeout is normally short, but I have it long for the screenshots. And one last area where there are settings, and that is in the virtual desktop itself. So you can see I have it set to high, 90 FPS, 150 for VR bitrate, sharpening 100%, gamma 1, always enabled. Well, went by a little fast, but you can pause it and read it yourself. Again, 90 for frame rates here. This is a desktop streaming, not the actual game anyhow. So this page here is not quite as important. So there you go. Now we're in the junker, Boston again, taking off from Logan here, and you can see taking off, we're doing 39, 40 frames per second, which in my book allows for you to have a very smooth experience taking off in VR. Would I love it to be 60 frames per second? Oh yes, I would. But will I be happy with 40 frames per second? Yes, I will be very happy with it. So I really hope this helps. I hope some of these settings make a difference for some of you people. Now I have a couple videos up showing the in-headset recordings, and so you can see the difference between the recording, which my recordings are done in the Quest headset. This recording was done actually in the headset, and then I transfer it from the headset to my computer. So what's being recorded is what is being sent into the headset. Not always what's being displayed on the headset. I've learned you can definitely make settings so that you get a nice recording and not a nice image in the headset. But right now with the settings I've shown you, I find a very, very good balance between quality and performance. I mean, you can see I'm nice and low here, going over the Constitution again and the junker. Then we got 40 frames per second, 41 frames per second. Okay, so now we're going down 38, 39, back to 40. Over the Zakum Bridge here. Got some traffic on the road. And we're coming into Boston proper again. And still, 41 frames. I know that's hard to see, the yellow there. But that says 41 frames, 42 frames per second, 41 frames per second right here. And then I think after the junker, I think there's one more plane around Boston. And I did some flights around the mountains in Sedona, Arizona, but most people won't watch even to this point, so I don't know how much more samples I'll put on. Hopefully this will be enough samples for people to get an idea of what my settings are, and you can decide if you want to give it a shot. Yeah, so we're still looking at Boston proper, looking very good there. I mean, I can recognize the buildings. I grew up in Massachusetts, so I know Boston. I know, Faneuil Hall is right here below us on the fancy building top there, that green brass building, and you got the church, the Old North Church, and you got the Prudential building is over there and way back in the background. And so, I mean, I recognize a lot of the areas. So that tells me I can see it good enough to recognize it's be an enjoyable flight. Again, we're looking at 37 frames here as we're heading up north of Boston towards Charleston. 36, yeah, so there's Bunker Hill Monument, passing right by the frame rate counter actually there, just by on our lower right corner. So you can see, now it's dropping 32 frames per second. So it does drop in certain areas, that's for sure. But how often are we really flying this low and this slow? I'm usually a little bit higher, and I'm not usually in the cities. I do like doing this once in a while because I think it's pretty neat, especially a city that I'm familiar with. But it's not where I'm going to spend my time flying. But I figure if you can get 40 frames per second around Boston, then a lot of other areas are going to perform very nicely for you. Yeah, I love when I'm up in the sky, I will stand up actually here in VR like this, flying around. And kind of not really I don't have my seat set up to stand up right now, so I know I'm not actually in the window. But we're still getting a good frame rate here as we're dropping down. As I say, 41. Yeah. So pretty good. Pretty good. All right. Well, hey, I hope this helps you. I really do. And if you got questions, I'd be glad to try and answer any ones that I can, for sure. Links in the description to the tutorials I mentioned and the software that I use. Thanks for watching. We'll see you in the skies. Yeah, 41 frames.